Welcome guys, this video will cover the second part of Thaemine Gate 4. If there's a difference between hard and the first mode, I will refer to it before I explain the mech. Battle items: Time Stop, Splendid Sacred Charm, and for the last one, 2 DPS classes keep Dark Grenade, and other 6 take Whirlwind. In the hard mode, before the start, you can refill and change the battle items, so just change the Atropine which was used in the first part of Gate 4 to Time Stop. In the first mode, you can't change the items anyways, so you take Time Stop which you already had in the first part of Gate 4. Sidereal. In this gate, there are 2 kinds of Kadan skills. 1. Offense Kadan. The leader presses Ctrl Z by watching where the boss is, to summon Kadan which does around 5 billion damage and staggers the boss. This can cancel most of the Thaemine's patterns except for the team meter pattern and some patterns where he's in the air, so the team will have additional time to DPS him. Most of the time, you will use this skill. 2. Defense Kadan. The leader presses Ctrl X to summon Kadan which does around half damage of the offense Kadan and reduces the incoming damage of all players by 80%. This effect is not good compared to the offense Kadan. You use this skill only once in the raid when special Kadan happens. I will cover when to use each skills later. Raid system. Team meter. There is a team meter on left top side. The meter not only gains naturally over the time, it gains more whenever people get hit by patterns. When the meter hits max, then Thaemine cancels the current pattern and teleports to 1 o'clock. He summons Black Hole in the center, and orbs will spawn on where the players are. The goal is to dodge the orbs while resisting the pull from the black hole. Normally, Party 1 gathers on left, and Party 2 gathers on right side and move clockwise by sticking to the edge. The orbs don't do that much damage, but it gives you stacks of debuff that decreases all healing effect by 30 seconds. At the end, the boss pulls everyone and makes their HP to 1. If you don't stick to the edge, then you will be pulled closer to the center, which is a kill. You will see 2 other debuffs that last for 30 seconds as well. This green debuff is what makes all the players HP to 1, but it allows them to lifesteal, so you can heal very fast by attacking the boss if you don't have too many stacks of heal reduction debuff. The hand-looking debuff locks all the battle items, so in short, for 30 seconds, the party have to DPS the boss with 1 HP in order to heal, which is very risky. Supporters should save the awakening and use it right away when this meter pattern ends. Red Sword. You can see red sword surrounding the field. When you bump into the sword, then you get a bleed debuff. At the start of the raid, the boss has 350 HP bars, which is 77 billion. The HP is same for both hard and the first mode. He has 8 minutes of berserk time. Periodical pattern. Domain expansion. When his berserk time reaches 6 minutes 20 seconds, then he does this pattern for the first time. The boss slashes the screen for 4 times, and all the players' animation becomes extremely slow. Everyone should spread around the boss as long as you can see him in the screen. Then he slashes 4 random players by turning to each player. If you get hit by it, you will die since the damage is 120% of the player's max HP. Players with Grudge Engraving take 144%. So far, there are 3 possible ways to resolve it. 1. When the boss's head indicator points at you, you press Time Stop right away. 2. When the boss's head indicator points at you, you use spacebar to the side. Only certain classes can do this. 3. When the boss's head indicator points at you, use a skill that has damage reduction and shield. Only certain classes can do this. If you're not sure about your class, then it's better to hit Time Stop. When the 4th slash finishes, then that's the end of this pattern and the Kadan gauge gets filled by around 40%. From this point, he will do this pattern around every 2 minutes. There is a major gimmick at 210 HP bar. Before you reach that point, you want to see the domain expansion pattern only once, because if you see that pattern twice, then you will pretty much see the berserk. Also, you want to see 1 time of the team meter pattern before 210 HP. This is because of Kadan's skill. Remember that all the players' HP becomes 1 after the team meter pattern ends? That's the best timing of using offense Kadan by pressing Ctrl Z since it staggers the boss, which makes the party safer. The thing is, normally, the Kadan gauge gets maxed out before the team meter gets maxed. This means you will have to hold Kadan for a certain time, which is a waste. So tanky classes like supporters are recommended to get hit by certain patterns that fills up the team meter. You can check out those patterns in the normal pattern timestamp. To summarize, before you reach 210 HP, you want to see 1 time of domain expansion, 1 time of team meter pattern, and use 1 time of offense Kadan. Major gimmick. The following mech has difference between hard and the first mode. Around 210 HP, a cutscene happens. After it ends, the boss destroys the outer side of the field. You will have to dodge some puddles on the floor. If you get hit by it, then you get imprisoned. Then the boss requires Stagger check. The Stagger requirement is 5500 in the first mode and around 4100 in hard mode. As a reference, a Whirlwind Grenade does 81 Stagger. At the same time, you will see patterns of red hands. The goal is to stagger the boss in around 22 seconds by dodging the red hands. If you get hit by the red hands, you will get a stack of debuff and get pushed all the way to the edge, which is a death by falling. You can prevent that by using paralysis or push immunity skills, but you can still die by having 5 stacks of debuff. There's an interval between the telegraph and the red hands, so you must move after seeing the red hands passing by. There are 4 kinds of red hands patterns during the mech. Large square. You can use around 2 skills in the safe zone. Rotating lines. Follow the trace of the hands. You can use a skill if you can. You normally throw a whirlwind during this pattern. 3 lines. If you try to dodge this by moving, then there's a high chance to die. You use around 3 immunity skills not to fall. It's okay to get some debuff stacks here. Small square. You can use around 2 skills in the safe zone. The sequence of these 4 patterns are random. It's better to watch a Stagger video of your class. You can check out the Korean keywords in the description, so copy that and watch it. If you succeed the Stagger, then you can fight him in the large field. If you fail the Stagger, then the boss does massive damage that pushes all the players no matter what, so everyone should stick close to him not to fall. In this case, you will have to fight the boss in a smaller field. Regardless of the Stagger success, you can fall and die if you get pushed to the edge where there's no red sword. Therefore, in the smaller field, it becomes easier to fall. As long as all the people survive, the raid is clearable even if the Stagger fails. Since the first mode requires such a high Stagger check, some of the parties might not be able to take it down. In that case, everyone bring Dark Grenade instead of Whirlwind from the first part of Gate 4 and don't stagger this mech. Just move around and dodge the red hands. After the mech, your next goal is to take his HP down to 105. Idealistically, you want to see the second team meter pattern after the second domain expansion. If the party DPS is high enough not to see the third domain expansion before 105 HP, you use the second offense Kadan after the second team meter pattern ends. If the party DPS is weak, then you use the offense Kadan when he starts the third domain expansion. This will cancel the domain expansion and provide DPS time to the party. Unlike the way to 210 HP, you do not have to intentionally get hit by certain patterns to fill up the team meter from 210 to 105. Also, if the team meter pattern happens after the 210 stagger fail, then everyone should stick to where there's no red source, because if you stick to the source, then you will die by being closer to the center since the field is smaller. When you reach 105, a cutscene happens that leads you to phase 2. At least one person should turn off the cutscene auto skip setting since it matters a lot. Before the cutscene happens, you have to remember the amount of team meter. If it has at least 4 slots, then you want to watch the whole cutscene. This has to do with special Kadan that you can see in early phase 2. If you see the team meter pattern before the special Kadan moment, then your party becomes risky since you have to reach the special Kadan moment without using Kadan with 1 HP. The meter still fills up during the cutscene. When the team meter is filled up, you can see 35 seconds of yellow meter, so you wanna watch the cutscene until that time reaches 0. The thing is, only dead person can see the team meter during the cutscene. But idealistically, you don't want anyone to be dead, so you just watch the whole cutscene. If the team meter is less than 4 slots, then skip the cutscene right away. In Phase 2, everyone gets 80% attack power buff. The boss's HP becomes blind, and the berserk time is replaced by Red Moon. The Red Moon gets eclipsed over the time, and when it reaches full eclipse, then that's a raid wipe. From the start, Kadan's skill is on, and you must hard DPS the boss. If it reaches a certain HP, then he teleports to the center by holding his sword above. This is the special Kadan moment. The leader uses defense Kadan by pressing Ctrl X. Offense Kadan will also enable it, but the reason why you use defense Kadan is because offense Kadan requires the leader to watch the Thaemine's front. On the other hand, defense Kadan works as long as you're close to the boss. Then the special Kadan appears and clashes the sword with Thaemine. This is a huge free DPS moment. During the sword clash, the boss gets pushed behind, so watch that out when you DPS. At the end, Kadan staggers the boss, which does around 6.5 billion damage and gives 30% damage buff to the party for that moment. In case you mess up using the special Kadan, for example, like using it too late or messed up the cutscene skip, then a player can go to 6 o'clock of where the boss is and press G key to do the clash. This is the normal way to do this mech, but it's never recommended. The special Kadan just gives long DPS time with damage buff, so you must use special Kadan. You want this mech to happen when the red moon is no more than quarterly eclipsed, because if you use it later than that, then you will not have the next Kadan skill up by the end of the eclipse, which is a raid wipe. That's why you have to hard DPS him from the start. You will see one more domain expansion and team meter pattern. Resolve them and use the offense Kadan when it's up. By the time this happens, with all 8 people alive, then normally the boss will be taken down, and that's the end of the entire Thaemine raid. So this is the summary of Idealistic sequence of clearing the raid. Now let me cover the normal patterns. Front backslash. The boss slashes the front and back respectively. It's a good DPS pattern. The safe zone is narrow side. Red and blue. The boss makes red and blue puddles on the field. This is a good pattern to get hit to build team meter. Free positional classes can DPS in the safe zone. Be careful when you're near the edge since it can push you. In phase 2, the shape of the puddle changes. Clone. The boss disappears and stones a player by summoning clones around him. Other players should move to the clone which is pointing the sword to the outer side. If not, he gets imprisoned. After he does this 2 times, the boss slashes to a direction which does massive damage. Move to his backside. If there are imprisoned people, supporters should Rhapsody them rather than trying to free them since the slash happens very fast. If imprisoned players don't get freed in time, then they die by drowning. Shark. The boss shoots Shark in the field. You have to dodge this since it gives you incoming damage increase debuff. This debuff can stack which is lethal and is not cleansable. At the end, the team should gather and take the supporter's Rhapsody. Pizza. The boss slashes the ground 2 times and then shows a narrow pizza safe zone near a player. Dodge the slashes and everyone gathers to spawn the safe zone near them. Jump counter. The boss jumps to a player and requires counter. His head faces to the direction of where he landed. Counter the boss and you will have a DPS time. If you fail the counter, then it does massive damage to all the players. Charge slash. The boss charges to a player while slashing which is counterable. This is one of the worst patterns that kills people by falling. You normally don't counter this pattern since it shares the internal cooldown of previous pattern. It's important to counter the previous pattern since that's much lethal if it's not countered. Air climbing. The boss climbs the air and grabs a player nearby. Everyone should stay far away from him. If one gets grabbed, then 3 people have to co-op counter the boss to free him. Never get grabbed since the inner cooldown shares with jump counter. Grab and air strike. The boss shows yellow telegraph and uppercuts the players. Then he air strikes with those players. If no one got hit by the uppercut, then he aggroes a random player and air strikes. The aggro player should aggro him to the center since he can do domain expansion pattern in the corner which is problematic. Slash and grab. The boss shows yellow telegraph and slashes the players. If a person got slashed, then he grabs a random player which does massive damage with incoming damage increase debuff. Charge and grab. The boss bends down and aggroes a player, then he charges to that direction. If anyone is caught, then he slashes that player with incoming damage increase debuff and attacks the outer side. Others should stay inside if this happens. Earthquake. The boss shows a donut or cone pattern for 2 times that earthquakes the players which is not cleansable. Then he charges to the earthquaked players. This does massive damage, so the supporters should Rhapsody that player. Rammus. The boss stabs the ground and rolls in the air. Then he strikes the ground which makes line attacks. DPS him when he's in the air, and move to his back or front after he lands. In phase 2, the line attack happens on random directions. Excalibur. The boss holds his sword high and aggroes a player. That player should fix the direction by dodging the puddles, and move to his back or stick close to the boss to dodge the strike. The strike does massive damage. Others can DPS him from his back. Orbs. The boss fires orbs that push the players and explode. When he fires 5 orbs on his front, then his close front is safe. If he fires 4 orbs on equal side, then front and back is safe. Stagger. The boss covers himself with Interstella and requires stagger. You have to stagger him from the side of the line, if not, you will instantly die from the reflection damage. It's a good DPS pattern. Retaliation. The boss holds his sword. This is a retaliation, so stop the DPS. If it procs, then it will pretty much kill the raid. Back tumble and inside safe. The boss stabs the ground and back tumbles. Stick close to his front when he lands. Circle slash. The boss steps back and slashes 2 times. The last slash in circle shape does massive damage and pushes the players far away. It's one of the worst patterns that kills people by falling. Backstep and charge. The boss slashes 3 times and backstep charges to a player. The slash from the last charge pushes the player far away, which can easily kill the players by falling. Left, right, and grab. The boss slashes left and right and tries to grab a player. If a player is caught, then he receives massive damage with incoming damage increase debuff. Multi-slash. The boss charges and slashes for multiple times. In phase 2, he slashes the air afterward. Clone slash. The boss charges and his clone slashes the path. In phase 2, his path leaves blade. The following patterns only come out in phase 2. Teleport grab. The boss teleports to a player and uppercuts with yellow cone telegraph. If players got hit, then they all get grabbed, which requires stagger check. Stagger the boss and free them. If you fail to stagger, then they will pretty much die. Imprison. The field becomes red and the boss stomps the ground, which imprisons everyone. All the players use Splendid Sacred Charm or use spacebar when he tries to stomp. Charging 4 times. The boss points a direction with his sword and charges 4 times. The 4th one is counterable, but you should not counter this since it shares the internal cooldown with the jump counter. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching and hit the like and sub if you liked it. See you guys on the next video. Stay Giga Chad.